Hello everyone, and welcome to the results of the survey video. Now, I know this video is late, but I've been busy working on the Space Engineers 2 video, which is the previous video, and also, I made that video while I was ill. So, progress has been very slow, but this was meant to be, earlier. But, anyway, enough talking, it's here now. So what we're going to do is we're very simply going to go through the results, and honestly, it is very surprising. So firstly, we're going to start off with the simple one. How many responses did I want to get? And that's basically, I was hoping for 1,000. I thought 100 is probably like the actual target. But I'll be happy if I get, 50 or so. I ended up getting 43, which is close enough. But anyway, we're going to start with the first one. Now this was just to get a rough idea of who was actually answering. So this was the simple one of how long have you played Space Engineers? This was just to get a good reading on who was actually looking at the survey, and the biases that would resolve there. For example, had I done this and I'd got all veteran players, then I would have been a bit stuck because there would have been a massive veteran bias compared to the newer players. But I do believe that we actually did get a roughly good mix, in the sense we have a couple of veterans here and there that have been playing the game since almost the launch, and I feel we've got a good amount of the casuals as well as those who have been playing for 3 to 6 years or so, and we have got a good amount of the newbies, with those only playing 3 to 6 months and 1 to 2 years. No offense to the newbies there, welcome to the game. As well as that, I also wanted to see where the opinions would kind of come from, in the sense of what other sandbox people have played. So now we're going to look at what everyone else has played. And now, obviously, I did start off with some of the base options of Ark, the Forest, the Long Dark. I threw that in because it was fun. Armor, Daisy, Don't Starve Together, and No Man's Sky. So basically kind of a rough area of I know where the rest of the Space Engineers community also spend their time, which is mainly space games. I didn't put Star Citizen in there, although I probably should have done, or Eve, but yes, I believe I forgot. There are also some options I did kind of forget, but oh well, they're here. And one of the more common ones was Minecraft, questioning why I didn't put it in, and I literally put that in because everyone has played Minecraft, so it'd be a bit of a moot point. Anyway, so here we do see that Ark have quite a lead with 55.8%, with No Man's Sky following with 51%. And then followed up by Daisy, then Armor, and the Forest. As well as that, we have a smattering of other things as well, such as Astroneer and Power World, 7 Days to Die, and Subnautica, also a popular one in here. But it's just to see as well, what aspects of these games would translate over. I do kind of regret that I didn't put Subnautica as an option, because that was a really good shout. So, shout out to everyone who put Subnautica, because I should have put that as an option. Now, we're going to discuss what aspects of these games you would like to see integrated into SE2. So, we're going to go off the more popular ones and then slowly work our way down. So, we'll start off with better survival aspect, which 8 individual people suggested. So, stuff like food, water, sleep, block decay, as well as a dedicated hardcore mode. There are mods for all of this, but to see it all properly integrated into the base game, I feel like would be amazing. And particularly regarding hardcore mode and block decay, I kind of feel like they should have been there already. Moving on, we're going to cover another very popular one, which was improved combat mechanic, which stood at 6 different suggestions. So there are a lot, but honestly, some of them are absolutely brilliant suggestions. So firstly, we have unique armor types and better deflecting mechanics. So just improved ricochet, as well as unique armor types which are better at protecting different things. So the next one kind of ties into this, which is long range artillery and laser weapons, with the idea being that you can hit targets from a longer range, and laser weapons which purely just drain power from the enemy ship or that sort of thing, or melt through a particular piece of the actual armor of your ship, in the sense it's concentrated, and you maybe even a mouse pointer or something, or you tell it to target a particular bit of ship and all the lasers try and hit that one bit to try and cut through. That could be very cool. Going on to that, we have improved infantry equipment. I did find this a little more odd that someone suggested this, because I think infantry is actually in a really nice place of where it is. I think the only thing we need is just armor and maybe a shotgun and a flamethrower. Like, that's the only thing I really think we need with infantry. The rest is okay, although I will say I feel like the jetpacks sometimes make infantry a little too overpowered at times, so we do need a good mitigation for that. Now, another one I saw that was very interesting was an EMP device, in the sense it will just knock out power on your ship, or all the ships in the region. I feel like that could be very, very cool, but it'd be interesting to get right that it wasn't too overpowered. Otherwise, you would literally have torpedo boats charging into the middle of a battle, detonating an EMP, knocking out all the battleships, and then the enemies just bring in like a whole fleet of cruisers to destroy your disabled ships. Like, it's an interesting one. The next thing is actually guided missiles and rockets. Honestly, Keen, we've needed that for ages. There's mods for it now. Please, give us simple guided missiles. The kind of more vague suggestion is just make the combat a little more well-rounded. Honestly, yes, but you're going to have to be careful of how you do it. The next, we're moving on to the next suggestion, which is NPC quests, player versus environment, and which stands at 6 suggestions. So this is stuff like allow NPC stations to repair your ship, as well as traders and quest lines. Slight tangent here. The contract system in Space Engineers is pretty good, I will say that, but like there's not much of a reason to do it. And it's not very personable either. You just walk up to a command console and get your mission. Whereas if you compare it to a game like Elden Ring, your side missions, you don't need to do them, but they're there, they give you stuff, and they're actually with personable characters that you can talk to and form a connection with. So I feel like that's all we really need. And also, give us better rewards. Like, give us skins. I'd be happy with just getting skins, because that way you can get your skins on a particular character. Therefore, you can just unlock skins for your account quite easily. They're not locked behind a paywall, or by tracking down all those unknown signals time after time after time. Another thing as well would be a tutorial quest line which gives you the parts to make the next bit for your ship, kind of like No Man's Sky does. In a sense, it tells you how to make the pulse drive and the warp drive and all that sort of, and their associated upgrades like the cadmium drive. Having a system like that, which basically tells you this is how you upgrade to a jump drive, or like this is what you do for your assemblers, this is what upgrade monsters do as an actual quest line, would just be really, really nice. So, going on to the next topic, new propulsion methods, which stands at 5 suggestions. And mainly this was just stuff like supercruise and basically a way to get out of the atmosphere quicker. Honestly, I'm fine with the atmospheric system how it is, but supercruise I do like because we do need a way of going faster without breaking the game. And I feel like a supercruise system would be kind of nice. However, I do think that the supercruise system would be very nice. The other suggestion was multi-solar system travel. Again, very nice idea. Would have to be adjusted because of the lag, particularly with consoles only being restricted to 3 planets. But yeah, would be a great idea, would lend a lot more depth to the game. Next, we're going to move on to the faction overhaul system, which stands at 3 suggestions, and this was literally just upgrade it so we have allied chat, faction chat's a little more accessible, have a little more faction centralization as well as potential forum and that sort of thing. Like, literally just an overhaul to the faction system. Now, we're going to just blitz through the rest of them, because the rest of these are literally at 2 suggestions or 1 suggestion. So we have cabling and logic gates, like from Ark, and scrap mechanic with that logic gate system and the way you can join things up. That would be quite cool. Less can collision improvements, everyone wants that. Procedurally generated planets, like No Man's Sky, yes. Upgrades to economy, yeah, agree with that. Rover options, rover only options, yes, absolutely. Wastelands are always really popular servers, but they only typically run for 1 season, which I kind of think is a shame. But anyway, a scanning system, oh yes, this was actually a really interesting one, just a way to scan around you. And honestly, I think we need this, because the amount of harebrained schemes that people go to find each other, either by using a very complex mathematical system, or by using the bounty system in order to find enemy players. Like, yes, we need a better way to find people. More environments? Yep, good idea. Exploration's insensitive? Yes. Just a way to reward, like, your exploration. Whether or not it's dividing up the resources a bit more between planets, or making an actual concrete reason to go to the planet. Like, yes, we need that. And finally, we get on to the very final one, and it is not having Rana. Right. I love my community. Anyway, moving on. Just to explain this one, because this is a kind of a weird one, the RPG style I was thinking of was kind of like Assassin's Creed Origins, where that game kind of took the Assassin's Creed formula and ported it perfectly into an RPG while still keeping a lot of the base game. And it also kept the one-hit kill with the Assassin's Blade, which I did like as an idea, and I think it worked great, but to use it, it did force you to go stealth at times. Also, I love the whole boss fight idea in Origins. I thought that was well done. Basically, I thought Assassin's Creed Origins was the perfect merge between the Assassin's Creed and the RPG aspects, combining the aspects of both, and I just wondered of how that would translate into Space Engineers. And honestly, I was rather surprised by the results, because here we see that we have 14% saying a resounding yes, and the rest saying, with only 20.9% actually saying no, with the rest saying maybe. So interestingly, a little more RPG elements introducing Space Engineers would be widely accepted in the community if it's done well. And I find that very, very interesting. For the next one, I feel like almost everyone is kind of after, so I was kind of surprised by the 20.9% no here. And that is the sense of Space Engineers taking a more MMO approach with everyone in regional servers like World of Warcraft. So a bunch of people said yes. However, some were very much of the idea that we should have the community servers as well. Because what I meant with this, even though we have the regional servers, I meant more of the sense we only have like 5 or 6 regional servers, and that's it, in the sense that everyone's pushed into those specific servers, and we can actually have keen servers where there's a good player base. So currently you log in now, there's only like 30 slots or so, and every so often you don't see many people on, you see like maybe 5 to 10, and that's kind of it. And maybe like peak times it will push to 20. But overall, those servers are never full. Ever. So I feel like if we merged a bunch of the region ones, that could be very, very cool. Because it would push us to actually have bigger factions and to be a little more like Eve and Star Citizen with the level of player base. Right, now we're on to the next one about caving systems. Now we know caving systems are coming. Equally, if you've not checked my Space Engineers 2 video, go and check that. But we know caves are coming, and while there is voxels and that sort of thing, in the sense that you can dig around caves, I do like the idea of in Ark, the fact you can just go down a cave and you have to fight a ton of things to essentially complete the cave. So I feel it may be interesting in Space Engineers if you have like a voxel which cannot be drilled, and that forces you to go down the entire cave. I don't think it would make sense in the sci-fi game. But, like, you know, they always push the scientific realism, but I still think it'd be rather cool. Anyway, this is a simple 1 to 5 of how positively you respond, with 1 being a negative and 5 being the most positive. 39.5% of people were fully on board with this, with the rest of it being mixed, and only a few people said no. Only 5 people responded negatively. The rest were indifferent or positive. So having caves and mine shafts and all sorts of things in there, I think would be really cool. I do love the idea of the monolith dig site in the scenarios. I do think some of those would be very cool. And there is also a caving mod, I believe, on the workshop. So again, I think adding that into Space Engineers 2 would be very cool. Now, this came as a surprise, but actually a lot of people were indifferent about the boss system from Ark. Now, I'll let you into a little secret. I was monitoring this on the first few weeks, and the indifferent actually spiked on the last 2 weeks of the survey being live. At the start, it was mainly very, very positive, and then there seems to be a flood that was literally everyone going, no, we don't want bosses, or we're indifferent to bosses, and this is that the last 3 bars shot up quite quickly. Now, what I mean by the boss fight, in the sense of using artifacts to actually summon the bosses in space, and then you fight them there, I believe it was Ark Extinction where they spawned on, the bosses spawned on the server, and any old player could come along and help. Which I do like the idea of, in the sense that you have a roaming boss that any player can come and fight, but equally, if an inexperienced player summons one and doesn't know what they're doing, the whole server can then come and help them. Anyway, regardless of this, most people were kind of indifferent to it, or like were very mixed on the opinion. Yet there is an towards the positive aspect of this, so I do think it'd be very interesting to add in. This one I don't think is going to be much of a surprise, as most people want this system overhauled and fixed, whereas an interesting amount said it should just be completely scrapped. But here's the thing, I do like the progression system in Space Engineers. It's just never used very much, and I think honestly give it a full rework and like make it a proper like skill tree or something like that, and I think it'd be used a lot more. But in its current state, it's not great. Now, again, another unsurprising one, would you welcome a leveling system? Now, I'm not in favour of this. I do like the idea of it being combined with the skill tree. It could work, and it would keep people in the game, though I do understand the merits of it. I don't think it would quite fit, but that's just me. Anyway, 51.2% of you said no, with a high amount of 32.6% saying maybe, and again, a surprising chunk, 16.3%, saying yes. So, again, rather interesting. Now, this one. Would you integrate a trading system like World of Warcraft or No Man's Sky? We basically have a resounding yes here, with only a so small amount that it doesn't even give me a percentage saying no, and a 28% saying maybe. So again, very positive response here. I think that the trading system, you can either integrate it, or we just basically need a better way of transferring ships over. Because you can do trading in a base game, you can give each other ships, but you have to have admins to transfer it over, which is just a hassle. And there has now been that piracy system where if you hack a certain amount, the grid transfers over to you to make piracy easier. And I believe that that should kind of extend to players as well, and also have a way to just transfer ships over to each other, as well as have some sort of menu for trading resources. Anyway, moving on. This was quite surprising that some people said no to maybe on this, which was, should Keen work with mod developers to integrate their mods into the base of SE2? And I think yes. I do think a lot of the stuff that we currently have in mods are going to get integrated straight over, because honestly the community have been great at building the Space Engineers beyond what it currently is. But I definitely think the mod developers need to have a hand in developing Space Engineers 2 and integrating their stuff into it. And we already know from my Space Engineers 2 video that there is better mod integration supported, so hopefully we will see that. Moving on, should SE2 support mod packs and better mod integration? I mean, we've just talked about that, but first one where we actually have a resounding yes. Because honestly, I do like the modding menu in Space Engineers 1. I think it's very helpful. Like, the setting priority of the mods is very handy. But I do believe that does need a bit of an overhaul. I do like the idea of having a separate mods launcher, like Stellaris, Hearts of Iron, and Minecraft has the Technic launcher as well, where you can choose to launch a modded version of the game. Like, we have the Space Engineers plugin launcher as well, so I believe that all of that should just be incorporated into one big launcher, where you can choose vanilla, mod packs, and plugin mode, and combinations thereof. So now we go on to, what would you add to SE2 to encourage player and exploration? Now this was quite an interesting one, but we did have 5 people say, I don't know. So we're going to start with the most popular one again. Again, with 5 people suggesting this, and it was more unique regions, planets, and region-specific resources and dangers. Absolutely, yes. I would quite like the idea of them implementing planets from prop. Maybe we have a dedicated planet from the Alien franchise, and since we go there in a Xenomorph and like facehuggers and that sort of thing, we go to another planet and it's like the droids from Star Wars or something like that. That would be a really nice system. Now going on to the next ones, we have more multiplayer co-op opportunities, group projects and better teamwork with 4 suggestions, and set objectives, milestones and expeditions also with 4 suggestions. So I'm going to kind of amalgamate these together in the sense that all of these are basically just going, we need expeditions like in No Man's Sky, and we need quest lines which actually facilitate group projects, whether it be a boss fight where you have to bring multiple people in multiple ships, or just various milestones that you have to complete and achievements with multiple people. It's just reasons to do stuff together. As well as this, we also had at number 3 rewards for exploration and defeating NPC encounters, which kind of ties into that. And basically, it seems that all we really need is just a really good quest system. We're going to move on to the next one with 3 suggestions, and that's economy and trading. Again, we've kind of covered this in the sense of just we need an upgraded economy and actual trading at in the form of like NPCs as well as other players. Now we're on to the ones which only had 1 or 2 suggestions, so we're just going to quickly blitz through them. So we have stuff like adding a story, yes. Specialized crafting, do like that idea. I think we are getting it with the new Prototech update, so that could be interesting. Procedural generation, absolutely, we are definitely getting that in Space Engineers 2. More upgrades and upgrade modules, yes, I do like the idea of putting upgrade modules on a jump drive. Artifact and quest only resources, again, I think we are getting some form of that with the Prototech update. But yes, good idea. Being able to visit stars, that was an interesting one. But yes, I do like the idea of being able to visit the sun or the stars. More survival mechanics like sleep and food, again, covered that earlier, yes. Tank and helicopter system, there are mods for this, but not all of them are supported by Xbox, so I get why people would want this integration into the main game. Honestly, yes. Difficulty slider, absolutely, that should be in the game. Stable servers, yep. Endless grind. Yeah, now that's an interesting one, in the sense that people want the actual grind to, like, not stop, in the sense that once you've got a jump drive and you've gone to every planet, you don't have a reason to do anything. Unless you just want to build a base on every planet, and then, like, do something stupid like a space elevator, which will probably crash your game. But, yeah, a good way to do that is to try and make the game a little more endless. That would be really nice. Ruins, yeah, that could be quite interesting, especially ruins where you could find lore. That'd be really cool. And final one, big titty women. Really, guys? Come on. There are a whole slew of other games for that. Come on. Now, this one. Should the Space Engineers world be more populated? We had overwhelming responses for all of these, and it says that everyone seems to want aliens, robots, as well as engineers NPCs, but there is a slight towards engineer NPCs here. I didn't really specify what form this should take. I was kind of thinking like the villagers from Minecraft, but it's very good to see that everyone wants the game to be a little more populated with stuff, and hopefully we are getting that in the player versus environment update coming soon. Now, regarding these NPCs, I asked, should they behave in a similar way to No Man's Sky? As in, they hang out on space stations, you can trade with them, you can go and visit their cities and that sort of thing, as well as their outposts. And obviously, we had a resounding yes, but notice I did put in yes, but get rid of linguistics and language learning. If you haven't played No Man's Sky, I will quickly explain this. Basically, whenever you come up to a NPC or a trader or whatever that a different species, you can't communicate them with right off the bat because you don't speak their language. So there are various options you can do. So for some of them, they will just straight up give you a word of their language, and then some of them you have to have a conversation with them and then get the correct responses, and it will teach you a couple of words here and there. But if you mess it up, you lose reputation. Anyway, I did love that system. I absolutely love that system. I think that's great in No Man's Sky, but I didn't think it'd be a good fit for Space Engineers. As in, I'm not sure that Playerbase would have the patience to go around literally becoming fluent in callbacks. It seems that most of the community seems to agree with me, as I said yes to getting rid of linguistics and language learning. We also have a good chunk that should say maybe, and a 7% which said no, which I find it interesting in the sense that maybe they want just a hostile form of NPC factions, as in like the Fabroids that just come and attack you. Now, slight fuck up on the question here. I did mean the Monolith and the Stereolith, and Zero's Legion have kind of beat me to the punch here, in the sense he went and solved it before I could get this video out, and I looked at that and just thought, wow, we've solved it, well done. And then I realised later on while recording this video, A, I've made a mistake in the name, and B, it's kind of already been solved. But again, shout out to Zero for this, because he has pointed out they are expanding on the lore with the new Prototech. So if you haven't seen these videos, honestly, go watch them. I will link them in the description. So, anyway, onto this actual chart. Do you think SE2 should expand upon the monoliths and stereoliths from Space Engineers? We have a resounding yes. We have a decent chunk of maybe, and then 11% saying no, and a good 14% basically going, what are they? Which basically does point out the fact that a lot of the community still doesn't really know much about the monoliths and the stereoliths, and they are a part of the lore. So again, we'll see. Now, would you add lore-based explorer notes and audio logs like in Ark? A resounding chunk said yes. We have a decent chunk of maybes, and 16.3% saying no. Honestly, the form I thought these could take is literally like the explorer notes, in the sense that you can find them wandering around, like in shipwrecks and that sort of thing, and it tells you a little more about what's going on. Should the scenarios be fully voice acted? Now, I believe Zero's Legion also went through and fully voice acted one of the opening scenarios for Space Engineers 1, and it sounded pretty good. So I know this already been covered this, but still, it was surprising to see that only 32.6% said yes, and we have a resounding 25% which said no. Interesting that only 6 to 7% of people want them actually voice acted over the nays there. Right, now we move on to the voice actors. Now, I will say there are quite a lot that I did just straight up remove because I can take the jokes of like, oh, you know, oh, not having Rana or big titty off women. Like, I get that, but like some of them just like someone suggested Donald Trump and a bunch of other like just controversial people, and I'll just seriously like, why? If you want to do that, there are literally AIs which can do it for you. Not that I condone the use of said AIs, but seriously, community, come on. Anyway, we're going to start off and we're going to go down the list with the most popular. So we had, I don't know, or just straight up no's with 22 people saying that. So next we had community members like Captain Jack, standing at 4 suggestions. So this is just all the different community members, like with only one person actively suggesting Captain Jack. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I think you should get like everyone else in as well, such as Zero's Legion, Last Stand Gamers, Luca the Guide, and as well as some of the other smaller ones as well, like Alice Does Things, I feel like would be a good decision. Next, we have Matthew Mercer with 3 suggestions. So, if you don't know who Matthew Mercer voiced, he has done so many, but such as Levi Ackerman in Attack on Titan, done some dubs in One Piece, he voices Jack Cooper in Titanfall 2, Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 6, Ganondorf in Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Deadshot in Injustice. I could go on, but you get the idea. Next we have the Terminator himself with 2 votes. Honestly, good old Arnold, I feel like he could pull it off, but he is getting on a bit, so, but I will say I feel like that could be quite good. And then we have a whole range of just popular actors. We have generally each with 1 vote. So we have Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, Nathan Fillion. Again, I think Nathan Fillion's a really good choice because he's done so much voice acting. Henry Cavill, Kevin Hart, Ron Perlman, Morgan Freeman, Ryan Reynolds, Chris Pratt, as well as someone just suggesting the entire cast of Team Fortress 2. Honestly, good choice. And then we had Neil Newburn, aka Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3. And then we have, I'm probably going to butcher this, Elias Tuvexis, aka who voiced Adam Jensen from Deus Ex. And finally, someone did actually suggest me. That's very flattering, but so then I asked, what would you add to the SE2 scenarios to make them more enjoyable? Standing at the top is, with 6 suggestions, is just NPCs. Honestly, we've covered them. Yes, just a little more personable NPCs. Now, if you actually play the scenario, there are kind of NPCs and dialogue given, but like it's not read out, it's just text-based, and you don't really form much in a way of connection to them. It's literally just in the scenarios, you're under attack by a faction, you land, you do a bunch of exploring, take off into space, find another faction who is allied, you help them out for a bit, you defeat the enemy faction, job done. Like, we need a bit more of personal connection, and NPCs is a great way to do that. Now, moving on, we have difficulty scale and limits. So we talked about this earlier, about simple difficulty sliders and just hardcore modes, as well as just putting a couple more limits on the game. That stands at 5 suggestions. Now, random encounters, quick time events, and puzzles also stands at 5 suggestions. Random encounters, yes. Quick time events could be cool. I feel like you can maybe make it timed events could be better. I don't quite like the idea of quick time events in Space Engineers. Puzzles and riddles, yes, I do like that, because there is the whole, there's a whole puzzle cave in Ark, which I quite like the idea of, even though I haven't done it yet. But the idea of, various puzzles you have to go through to progress could be quite cool. I do love riddles, and something like the Arkham Knight questline with the Riddler could be kind of cool in the sense you solve riddles and do races and that sort of thing. On to the next one, real danger, consequences and rewards. With 4 suggestions, honestly, yes, because sometimes when you're in a ship covered in guns, it's very easy to feel safe when the sense of, you know, enemies like that, you can either just turn all your guns around or just pop a missile and they're dead. Like, I feel like real danger we could definitely have with boss fights or NPC fleets. A good example of this is the Reavers in Space Engineers, which go from very scary to in the early game to just downright annoying in the mid game, and then are just less and less of a problem as you build up, but are still like enough of a threat to keep you on your toes if you're not concentrating. And they bring very real consequences as well. The trouble with the Reavers is they don't actually give you much in the way of reward, in a sense of, you beat them, well done, you get to live another day. Like, giving out skins or like resources would be very nice. Onto the next one is just a story system. Honestly, yes, that sounds at 3 suggestions. So the next one's very interesting in the sense we have both tower defense and ground-to-air control kind of systems. In the sense that you need to be able to power project and exercise a little more control over the ground, your territory, as well as the air itself. That also stands at 3 suggestions, and I feel like the way this could take is either like a ground claiming system through factions, like in the Minecraft faction servers, where you claim a piece of ground and you build on that, and as soon as someone walks over it, they get notified that they're in your territory. That could be quite cool. And have it either like marked off by safe zones, or literally just safe zones to mark off territory. That could be interesting. Another way you could do this is have safe zones which provide like a damage buff for people fighting in their home territory, and like a couple of debuffs against the enemies. Interesting way to do it, I feel, but that could be one way of projecting ground and air control. As before, we're just going to quickly rattle off all the ones which have just 2s and 1s for their votes. So we've got depth and replayability 2. Yes, kind of discussed that earlier with the endless grind. We need like more abilities to replay the game and more reasons to. More multiplayer features, also standing at 2. Yeah, we've also discussed this enough in the sense of just more co-op abilities. Updates to warfare weapons and tutorials 2 as well. With the 2 suggestions as well. Now the actual suggestion was put autocannons in the scenarios, and you know, when I went and played the scenarios for the first time, it was actually after Warfare 2, so I fully got, hey, where are the new weapons? Like, because they hadn't been updated. So yes, upgraded weapons tutorials, which was also another suggestion I just amalgamated into this. Now, the next one, boss fight with 1 vote. There is actually 1 boss fight in the scenarios, but we do need more, as that boss fight is a little annoying and kind of tedious. But yes, a boss fight would be good. Next, we have reasons to do them with 1 choice. And yes, because I do think in the UI menu, you kind of have to dig for them, which is a little annoying. And the other thing as well is, like, they're not really marketed too much as tutorials. Like, I feel like when you enter the game, instead of, I know there's been a bit of an upgrade to the menu, but one thing I do think it should do is it basically says, if you're a new player, do these scenarios first. Like, that would be a good way to get them in, as well as putting in actual tutorials. Next is checkpoints with 1 suggestion. Honestly, for some of the more difficult ones, absolutely, because it is just annoying. So this would definitely be a very kind of welcome change. I do think an actual checkpoint block would be better than just a survival kit, though. Now, next one kind of threw me off a bit because it says pre-existing ships, vehicles, and structures. The scenarios generally already have this, but if we want more of them, then yeah, I guess. Better descriptions and limitations also stands at 1 vote as well. And honestly, yes, like a bit more description of what the scenario does could be better. And yeah, a little more limitations to make it harder. I mean, we kind of stray into the line of having a difficulty slider as well there, but yes, I absolutely get that. Anyway, that about wraps it up for this video, so thank you all for watching and have an amazing day. Bye!